It's time to build our robot now. I've just gone through the parts. There's quite a bit to it, and so I'm just going to try and lay it out in a very methodical way, which is very unlike the way I normally do things, just so that you've got a good chance of being able to do this on your own. When the parts arrived, the chassis, you basically got all of these parts that you can see from the top down arrived in this one little plastic bag, and there are no instructions with this chassis. And the chassis also obviously arrived with this, which is the main body of the chassis, and the wheels and the motors. And so we need to actually assemble these into some sort of coherent chassis that's going to work. I must admit, I went back to that original video on the robot page by Mr. Roy on how to build this robot, and it's got a picture of how he's assembled it, and that was very, very helpful. But basically, out of these parts here, we've got our battery holder, which is going to be on our attached to our chassis. We have some standoffs. Now these little standoffs here, what I basically did was we got lots and lots of these screws out of the bag. So what I'm going to do is with these screws that we've got, those standoffs are actually for this coaster wheel. Okay, so you've got these little metal standoffs, and in each end of the standoff you can put you can screw in a screw in either end. So one end is obviously attached to the chassis, and the other end goes into the actual caster wheel. You'll see that when I actually assemble it. We've then got 4 screws here with threads on them. I think I'm going to be using some of those to perhaps attach the battery case. And then we've got all of this business here, and this is for attaching our motors and our wheels onto the chassis. So what I'll do is I'll start with the coaster, applying the coaster wheel, which is this one here. And once we've got that on, we'll have made a good start, and I'll demonstrate how to put on the rest of the bits. Okay, so I just thought I'd have a look at the tools you're going to require to actually get this done. On the table, as you can see there, we have your standard pliers and a Phillips head screwdriver. Phillips head is the type of screwdriver that has like a little crossed head on it. That is probably the bare minimum. You can use this pair of pliers to cut and strip wires, because they've got inside here, in this part here, you've got a little part that will cut and strip wire, and obviously for doing up your little screws and whatnot for standoffs and stuff is your Phillips head screwdriver. So that'll get you over the line. Now there are some issues when the motor parts were sent out. On the actual video, you can see that his motor arrived with the wires attached, and you can see in here you've got 2 little copper connectors. Now, in a pinch, you could actually take one of your wires that you've got, your little jumper cables that you've got, cut the end off it, and push it through there, and just twist it onto that connector, and then plug it in where you need to at the other end on the motor controller, or screw it in, sorry. That would work, but in the long term, not a good connector. So we'll be soldering that connection to make it really solid and professional. But in a pinch, if you don't have a soldering iron and you really want to see the robot working, as long as you make sure that you twist those wires really well around those little, see that little pad there with a little hole in it, just there, that is where you put your wires, okay, on either of those 2. If you twist the wires well, it will make a connection. So that's a bare minimum of tools. And then obviously, you know, if you really want to make your life easy. You know, more pliers, more cutters, yeah, a bit of insulating tape, and some of these zip ties. All these things could make your life easier, but I would say that if you've got the essentials, which was that, you can build this robot. So we'll attempt to do that now. And like I said, down the track, I will solder those connections on the motor. In fact, I'll probably be going to buy a soldering iron today. If you do want to buy a soldering iron, you can go to Jaycar Electronics. I think even Bunnings sells a small electric soldering iron that you could use for electronics work. And then you just need that and a little bit of solder. And I would say Jaycar is the place to go, but that's where I'll probably be going to buy this soldering iron today, so that we can finish this project professionally. But that is all you need to build this this device using the tools, the essential tools. Bye. Okay, we're about to start assembly of the chassis. We're going to apply the coaster wheel first. That's your little coaster wheel that spins and turns, which allows your robot to steer in whatever direction it wants to. We've also got our 4 standoffs, and in the end of each of those standoffs you have one of those little screws, threaded screws. So it comes out, and that's what's going to hold your little coaster wheel off the base. Now, these chassis come with this protective coating on them. You know, it really doesn't matter if you leave it or you don't leave it, but we'll peel it off because, as usual, it's going to be one of those really difficult things to do because I cut my fingernails this morning and I'm going to have difficulty getting it off. So, but we'll remove that covering. So when we come back, this will be peeled off, and we'll have a clear chassis. Etc, etc. Okay, so we need to grab our Phillips head screwdriver and we pick up our little coaster. We put the screw through the bottom of the coaster wheel, grab a little standoff and screw it on. And there it is, it's on. And we do that 4 times. Just hold the little coaster wheel a little bit off the bottom, so make it level because the wheels on the side are a little bit larger. If you really want it to be pedantic about it, you could just get your Phillips head screwdriver, just give it a twist to tighten it up, but you can pull those pretty tight with your fingers. And that's all your standoffs attached to your actual coaster wheel. Then we're going to grab our base, which is nice and clear now because we've put our pulled the covering off of the protective coating, and the wheel actually sits just in that spot there in the centre. So we'll get that in there now. Now, the order of doing this, you could either attach your standoffs In fact, it might actually be simpler to attach the standoff to the board first, but this sort of makes it clear where they go, so that's why I've done it this way. So just screw it down, get the first one in position. You can always swing it around to line up the hole once we're in. Okay, so we'll just make sure all our holes line up, which they do. Next one in. Sometimes if things don't line up very well, it's sometimes helpful to leave the screws a little bit loose to begin with, so you've got a bit of play in the whole system, and then once everything's in, then tighten them all down. But I think this has been drilled quite accurately, probably by a CNC machine that, you know, it's like millimeter perfect, so we won't have any problems getting this in by the looks of things. And there you go. We now have our coaster wheel on our robot, so he can drive around, and hopefully he'll work well. So it remains to be seen how well that's going to work. We will find out when the actual robot starts driving around. And now we'll get the main wheels on. Okay, so because our motors didn't come with the wires attached, because things are never as simple as you'd like them to be, what we're going to do is we are going to take our pliers, because I said that was the essential piece of equipment. You know, even this, if you didn't have one of these, you could probably use a pair of scissors very carefully as well to strip some wires and cut some wires, because they're very small gauge wire. It's very, very fine wire, so it probably wouldn't be a difficulty. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of these male-to-male connectors that we bought with the kit. I'm just going to cut the end off. One end is going to go into the motor shield later on when we build it, and one end is going to go onto the wire. What I'm going to do is just clip off both ends. I'm only going to show you how to do this on one motor, but you're going to be doing this on both motors. And then you want to just strip both ends of the wire. So you've got to basically, if you push too hard, you'll actually cut the wire. So you just got to push with a little bit of pressure and just slowly try and strip that wire so that the insulation, which is the plastic on the outside, comes off, but the wire on the inside is still there. You can see that I've done that there, reasonably successful. There's no wire left in that little piece of insulation. So there's not a lot of wire there. So you've got to be really, really careful, because push too hard and you're going to cut the wire. Once again, slide it inside that part, this part here, ever so gently, you know, about a centimetre or so, and just push a little bit of pressure and just pull on that wire, and just keep doing that until you hopefully get your insulation off. It's a little bit of a touch thing. You don't want to be too. There, I've cut the wire. So you've just got to be really careful. And there you go. So that's a stripped wire. And then what we're going to do is give it a little bit of a twist, so all the little strands are together. And then we're just going to take our motor, and I've used a different colour for each terminal, because it'll just give you an idea of which terminal is which, if it matters when the motor's turning, because you might need to reverse wires, or you know which motor the wire is coming from, because each wire to each terminal will be a unique colour. So I've gone black, white, red and brown. So really, as long as you have an idea of which wire goes to which area, you'll be fine. So I'm just going to pull up that little tab. You can see there. I'm going to thread my wire through that tab, and this is going to be like threading a needle kind of, because it's very, very, very fine. And there we go. There we have it. And then I'm going to twist it back, and then I'm going to just twist it and twist it and twist it around that terminal, because it needs to make a really good connection. It can't be loose. If it's loose, there won't be an electrical connection and the motor won't work. So I've twisted that several times. Now, like I was saying, I think my long-term plan to make sure that this is 100% reliable will be to just put a little spot of solder on that, and that will make sure that you've got a good connection, because if you haven't got a good connection, this motor is not going to run. But we'll see how we go with this scheme, because it'd be nice to know that you can actually get this thing to work without a soldering iron. So you're going to attach all four to each of those. So two wires to each motor. You'll be attaching another wire there, and then we'll be attaching these to the chassis. See ya. Okay, so these are the parts we're going to need to attach the actual motor to the body. You've got these little machined blocks here. A screw goes, or two screws, sorry, go in each end of that, and that's what attaches the motor to the body. And then you've got long screws and the nuts that go with those long screws, and it's going to be attached to the actual body here. And I'm only going to do one motor for you to see how that's done. Note the orientation of the board. You've got at one end you've got your coaster wheel, so we're going at the other end, and you can see you've got this little curve here, this curved bit here. So that's where that's how you're sort of going to orient yourself. So what you do is you take your machined block here, and you're going to put it onto the body of the plastic chassis just here. Okay, now the way you probably want to orient yourself so you know where that goes is if you are to look at this, how this is constructed, you've got this cross here, okay, and just to the right of the cross you can see these two little holes here that I'm pointing to, that one and that one, okay. Those two holes is where you're going to attach this, I'll just try and get that so you can actually see it. That's where that actually goes, okay? So we're going to put that on there now so you can see how that happens. I'm just going to pull the camera back a little bit so we can actually get a little bit more of field of view. And what we do is, what I'll do is we'll just push the screw through the base of the chassis, and I just get my little block here, and I just find that it's just easier just to twist it on there until we get down to the base of it. Like I said, sometimes not too tight because it gives you a little bit more play. Get the other screw in, and then the other screw is going to go through the base, and hopefully if this has been machined as well as I think it has been, we won't have any problems. So we just try to get that thread started, and then we grab our Phillips head screwdriver and we screw it down. I want this to be fairly tight. It needs to be mechanically stable, so that your chassis isn't going to rattle along and do weird and wonderful things, and you don't want the wheels to fall off. So there we have it. That block is now on. Now the motors sit underneath your chassis. A little bit of a pause there. Okay, so we're going to take our motor, and we're going to feed the wires through this central hole in the middle here of this perspex, and that goes through the hole because that's where you're going to feed them through to get through to your motor shield. And we'll know which motor it is by the colours. We've got the brown and the red. So we feed that through, and we bring this up on top, and in the side of the motor here you can see that there's two holes. That is where the screws actually go to hold this motor onto the chassis. So as you can see, we have the motor facing, this is the motor here, there's a gearbox in here. Motor's facing towards the caster wheel, and then we just get our longer screws and we feed them through that hole in the side of the motor here. Let's get that in there, and then it goes through and comes through on that little metal block, and then we put a nut on it and we tighten it down. And that's our first screw done, and we just got one more screw to go. Same process, we feed it through the bottom here, get it lined up, and then we tighten it down. Now you can see there's a little bit of play in this whole system here, and you want to make sure your wheels are nice and straight. So we'll get everything on first, and then we'll have a play with the actual adjustment of it, make sure it all looks like it should. So I'm just having a little bit of trouble getting this nut on. It's not cooperating. Come on! Oh, it's too early in the morning to be doing this. It's 11 o'clock. Okay. Don't you love school holidays? Okay, this is going to be more difficult than I thought it would be, because what's happening is the chassis is actually too close. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to loosen these screws off that were holding it on the bottom, because I don't have enough clearance to actually spin that nut around. So we are learning as we go. Okay, so now we've got enough room to actually spin that nut around. It will actually let me get this on, and then we'll just tighten everything down. There we go. So that was the problem. So sometimes things aren't mechanically like you'd want them to be, but if there's a problem, have a look at what you're struggling with, and there's usually a solution to that problem. So now I'm just tightening these down again, because you couldn't get that. So I would say, if you're going to build this, put this block on the side of the motor first, put the motor down where you need to, and then screw it down. Okay, that will make more sense. But we've done it this way now, and I've explained how to get around that problem, so we shouldn't have any issues. Okay, so then we just tighten everything down to make sure that it's all going to stay where it's supposed to. I'm just using our Phillips head tool. So you just want to make sure that your motor, the side of your motor, lines up with the side of the chassis, not perpendicular, parallel. Okay, so parallel, this side parallel, so that your wheels are in the correct orientation. And then you just grab your tire. Okay, it's got a little axle that will slot for the axle, and then you just, I'll just bring my camera up here so we can actually see what I'm doing. You have a little white peg that's the same shape as the wheel, and the wheel just slots on to that peg. Turn it around till it gets in the correct orientation, and it will go on. And then, like I said, make sure that you push the motor around, just make sure that you get it correct, and then tighten it down again. And that is how to put a wheel on your chassis. Now obviously you're going to do exactly the same thing on the other side, and then your chassis will be complete. Okay, right, it's time to put our battery case on. This is the battery case that I ordered. It's got a positive terminal, which is the red, and a negative terminal, which is the black, which is the conventional color coding for DC power. And what we're going to do is we're going to put this on our chassis. Okay, and it sits on the bottom of the chassis, so it doesn't take up too much room. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to slide it underneath here, and I'll just show you where it goes. It actually sits right about there, okay, on the chassis. And what you do is you put your screws through, and then you tighten it down. So I think what we'll probably do is we'll put our screw through on this side, which is the bottom of the chassis, and we'll get it in position and then tighten it down. Now the screws, the actual holes are probably a little bit smaller than you want them to be. You may need to actually screw it through using your Phillips Phillips head screwdriver. That's what I'm having to do here. Moderate amount of force, and it will slowly make its way through. Now hopefully these screws aren't sitting too proud, and they're not going to cause an issue when we put the batteries in. Now if they do, we may need to get a flatter screw to put this on, or if these screws do get in the way, I bought some double-sided tape, and we'll double-sided tape this battery holder on. So we will find out when it's time to put the batteries in it whether we're going to have an issue or not, but hopefully not. Okay, so get the screw, get it in. Have it. Now I've used red and black on my motors, which could cause some confusion, so you've got to make sure that when you do attach your wires to your Arduino controller that you've got the correct wires, which is always, you can always track them back. And what we're going to do now is we're just going to line up those screws with the holes that are in the base, and hopefully everything lines up like it should. It's going to be close, but I think we'll be able to get it here, hopefully. We hope. There we go. There we go. It's on. Okay, so then we just flip the thing over and we put some nuts on the end of those screws that have come through.